welcome back to the Dancing Heart podcast. I am so excited to be back with my microphone to share more stories with you and to have more meaningful conversation with more beautiful souls out there. So let's just dive into this week's solo episode. One evening, I got a text from a colleague that said, "Congratulations on your national TV debut." And I had no idea what he was talking about. Because earlier that day, I had done an interview in my hometown where we have a yearly winter market, which is quite famous here in Norway and also around in Europe. I did an interview at the opening that day. Nothing special. I was just showing up and I was just actually just doing my job. And I didn't know that this part was being filmed by anyone. I was just really present in a moment, just, hey, what's up? What do you have to say about this, But someone was. And they chose me, and they chose my interview to be broadcasted on the national TV over the journalist that was sent to make the actual content for the national TV that day. That's how it all started, guys. And it taught me so much on how the spotlight really works. You don't chase the spotlight. You just show up fully as you are, and sometimes the spotlight finds you. And today I'm going to tell you the story about how I found my voice and how the detour was actually the path the whole time. So everything started in 2014. When I said yes to a job in my hometown in a new company that I ended up actually hating, to be honest. But this job led me to work with the radio station that was one of my clients. And I was around selling commercials to local stores. And I made the commercials with them. And I love that part. And I actually used my voice to record some of the commercials as well, because I found that they really liked my voice. So that was something that I was doing. And also I was part of some of the radio productions. And it was honestly so much fun. I really loved it. I discovered something that I didn't really know that I had. I didn't know that I didn't know that I was passionate about creating and about writing this content and telling stories and sharing my voice on radio. I did not know anything about that. But that's where the detour starts, because I ended up leaving the job that I hated, the one that I was employed in. And as soon as I left that job, I got actually 3 new job offers. And one of the offers, there was from the radio. But I wasn't ready to stay in my hometown at the time. So I actually went back to my previous job as a store manager. And then I was there for a year. And I met my ex-boyfriend, who happened to be from Ecuador. So then I moved to Ecuador with him. And that's a whole different story. But I ended up being pregnant and coming back home to my hometown again. Isn't it funny how all these choices that you make is just that you think are detours, and they're sent me back to my hometown. And I was like, okay, what am I doing here now? And I had to start all over again, and everything was kind of falling apart. All the plans that I had for myself or my future, for my career, was kind of okay, I just need to start on zero. But that was actually the best thing ever, because nothing is a coincidence, everything is perfectly planned out for you. You just have to trust. So during my maternity leave, I had so much time on my own to be with myself, and also with my daughter, of course. But I spent so much time just being with myself, out on walks, being in nature. And then suddenly I got this idea that I wanted to start a podcast. And what really inspired me to start podcast was that I had this passion to share stories. And it wasn't my own stories. It was other people's stories that I was these stories just needs to be told. Back then, my cousin, who I've been very close to my whole life, I am 6 months older than her, and she got a brain tumor. And she survived and everything went well with her, but I was really, there with her through the whole process. And the way that she handled the whole situation and her positivity, her perspective on life and how she got back into, like how she handled everything, being a single mom and, having a job and everything. It truly inspired me. So I told her, like, hey, do you want to be my first guest on my podcast? Because I want to tell your story to the world. Because these are the stories that no one hears about if you don't have a platform to tell it. And it's so valuable when somebody else is telling your story. So this is how it started. And my motivation was also that I'm from a very small town. And every day, like every week, you see the same faces on the newspaper, on the front page, because they are the same people that works in the politics and all of that. I'm like, I'm so done with seeing the same faces all the time, listening to the same stories and just, no, I want to do this my way. So then it started. I told stories. I brought people on the podcast. So I invited different people that was actually from my hometown, and I told their stories. And it was the story with my cousin. It was a story with my uncle who's an alcoholic, and that story, I tell you guys, it went viral. And I understood that I had something special because everybody told me that it was so nice to talk to me, that I'm like a natural listener and asking the right questions, and it was just really something that sparked joy in me. And I loved doing it. And I also loved that people told me that they were so excited about the next guest and listening to the stories that really changed something within them. And it just gave me so much joy in my heart to know that. And I never been a person that's been outspoken and that's been taking up the space and being visible. And I just did my thing. I didn't think about it. And this is something that I also want to share, because I did this, I didn't get paid for it. And while I was producing my podcast, I was also working. I also went back into the radio station, At the same time I started my podcast, I also started to work in the radio station. And because of the skills that I learned in the radio station, I learned how to edit. I learned how to do all the technical stuff that I didn't know in the past. So, that was a win-win. And because I was working in the radio station, I also got to meet more people, to go out and meet a reporter and interview them. And it was just so much fun. And I remember the first time that I did an interview live. This was during like a famous Christmas market that we have in my hometown. And I just found the perfect person to interview. And then as soon as I got the green light from the producer in the studio, she was like, we're going live in 2, 3, 1 seconds. We are live. And I don't know what happened to me, but something was just like channeling. I was so clear. I knew exactly what questions to ask. And it went so good. I'm like, whoa. I was even surprised myself, like how good it went. So this is really how I found my voice and understood that this was something special. This was a gift that not everyone has. And I also need to add to the story that when I quit in the radio station, I also put my podcast, the first podcast that I made, on pause, because I then started to work in real estate. One of the local newspapers came to me one day, and she's like, why did you stop? Like, are you going back into podcasting again? Because we really, really loved your productions. And she also told me that she was interested to actually, to buy my podcast, to have that as a content on their newspaper. And I'm like, really? I didn't know that. And of course, that didn't happen back then. And, I didn't think so much about it because I was just like doing my thing. I was just doing the thing that I believed in. I was just following my own inner passion and joy. And I didn't get paid for it. I just did it in my own free time, and combining this with a job and motherhood and like planning all of that. It was a whole production, I'm telling you. But here's the thing. The world noticed me before I understood the power of my voice myself. And looking back now, I see that all these detours that happened, the job, Ecuador, coming back to my hometown, the pregnancy, all of that. The detours were actually the path to me finding my voice and stepping into my own power. And now sitting here sharing my voice with you in a new podcast that I absolutely love. And I know that this is also one of my superpowers. My voice, the storytelling, the interviewing. I really love it. So if you are in a place in your life right now where you feel like, it's not going where you wanted it to be, just know that the detour is actually the path to your purpose. Think about it. It's not a detour. It's your purpose is being built in the detour. And you can only connect the dots backwards when you're thinking back on how this whole thing just came together, like I did now. I was thinking the other day, because this story came to me the other day when I honestly thought my microphone wasn't working because I've been traveling so much. But then there was a voice inside of me telling, you should check your microphone again. So, of course, I did. And it worked out perfectly. I just didn't know how to turn up the volume on my mixer. And then I was thinking, okay, now it's time. I saw it as a sign that now it's the time, Torny, to step back into podcasting and to sharing more stories, because this is your gift. And yeah, it just took me back to this whole thing, how it all happened. I just also want to share with you, because of the job I had in the radio station, I was visible to the local community in my hometown. And because of that, I was noticed by the CEO of the bank, who hired me to be working in the real estate company 3 months later. So you never know who's going to watch. You never know when your moment is coming, but it is coming. Trust your path. Everything is aligning, and knowing that in every detour, your purpose is being built. Thank you so much for listening. I am so excited to share more stories with you here on the Dancing Heart podcast. You can make sure to like and subscribe, and you can find me on Instagram. It's Torny Wigum. I will see you in the next episode. Bye.